wonder who's farthest away.
Dubai?
Farthest away from where?
Well, from BC, I guess that's where the facilitators are in. I would guess maybe Kenya would be farther than Dubai.
Well, I may as well tell you there's no prize for the furthest away, so it's just kind of fun to see.
Yeah, there were a few people saying how the ISW connects people, and that's really true all around the world. Yeah, we didn't use a map this time. Last session, we had a map for everybody to put a dot on. This time, we didn't do that. But yeah, that might be an idea. It's nice to see where everyone is on a map. Makes it more visual. So it's 9 o'clock. Are you ready, Alice? Shall we begin?
I think I'm ready. Yeah.
Okay.
Some people are still joining, but we'll start right on time.
Okay.
Hi, everyone. So thanks for taking part in the While You Wait activities. In a minute, I might give a little tip about the countdown from 100. I'll see how many people have done it yet. So my name is Alice Cassidy, and I'm retired from the University of British Columbia. And when I was there, I taught in the Faculty of Science, and I co-directed the campus-wide Teaching Support Center. And I did a bunch of stuff there, including being involved in the ISW, the FDW, and also a presentation skills workshop and a new narrative skills workshop. Hi, everyone.
Hi, and my name is Cherie McLeod. I'm currently working at British Columbia Institute of Technology in the Learning and Teaching Center, where I'm an instructional development coordinator. And it's nice to meet you all, and I hope that we will find lots of things to talk about over the next hour and a half.
So folks, we have as a form of icebreaker, and we're going to ask you to type your response into chat, and we'll comment on a few. What do you see as one benefit of online learning? You can have that as broad as you like. I'll give you a minute to give your ideas on that. Nice. Lots of responses rolling in. Flexibility, access, anytime learning. Thanks, Jill. Yeah. You can always review the material. Yeah, not limited by geography. Nice point. Mandy, you said access for some and not for others. I'm just curious about that, and I think it's a good point. You could either type into chat if you'd like to expand on that, or if you want to talk for a few seconds to tell us what you mean, I would welcome that.
Yeah, I don't mind talking. So particularly over the last few months, when we have people coming together in a variety of forums across the planet, there are some technologies that are not accessible to colleagues, to students. There are some that are not even permissible, never mind accessible, things like bandwidth. So while we can welcome and allow for more inclusivity, certainly, I think we have to also be mindful that we can't take for granted that it makes it accessible for all.
Thanks, Mandy. And Benita, I like what you said. You don't have to dress up. I'm wearing, kind of, I chose carefully the top I'm wearing, but I must admit I'm wearing sweatpants. My office is above the garage. It's a little chilly. So thanks for that, folks. And as we move to the next slide, I just want to give you my my little clue for in the opening. We asked you things about lifting 2 fingers at a time. Maybe you're a piano player and that's easy, or you're not and that's difficult. The other one was count backwards from 100 in sevens. And I was telling Cherie and Jan earlier, I learned this one from my mother, who has peers who've had to do fill out the form with the doctor to renew their driver's license when one reaches a certain age. The trick is subtract 10 and add 3. Give it a whirl next time, you know, down the road when you renew your driver's license, it might come in handy. So thanks, and we'll move along.
Okay, we just wanted to mention a couple of things that are just standard netiquette. So you can unmute yourself if you would like to speak, but if you're not speaking, please keep yourself on mute so that the background noise doesn't disturb everybody. And you can, it's nice to leave your camera on if you can, but of course, if you don't have the bandwidth, that's entirely up to you. But if you can, we'd like to see you. Participants, you can open this up to see who's in here and communicate directly with people if you'd like to. And the chat also is a great place that I think people have already found. We will be using the annotation tool. So just take a moment to see if you can find that. For most people, it's probably up at the top of their screen. And they'll see some kind of a pen. And when you click on that, it will open an additional panel of things that you can do. For example, you can draw when you open up your annotation tool. Right, so I see people have figured it out. We've got some things going on here. And in the next slide, you will have an opportunity to annotate. So I'm just going to remove what you've put on this one because it will follow through to the next slide. Let's move along to the next one. And if you could put a stamp or a line or a squiggle or something on the screen that indicate what the weather is like where you are today. Oh, some blue skies, I'm jealous. Somebody's, a few people in the rain, a few people in the snow. Well, actually quite a few people in the snow. Lots of people in the sun. I have to say I'm a sunshine person. That's what I would prefer any day. Okay, if you're unable to annotate, don't worry. You can tell us or just empathize. Lots of pictures. Okay, good. Wow, there's a big cloud on somebody's blue sky and lots of suns. Great. Okay, that's nice. Thank you for sharing. It's nice to know how things are where you are today. We're going to move along now to looking at our outcomes. So
here we are. Thanks, Cherie. I'm not going to read these out, but we really want to emphasize in this second session, building on what we looked at in the first session, which was to introduce the resources from the Virtual ISW Toolkit and group that work together. And so we're going to, in particular, focus on practical aspects and look at the agendas that people in our team put together and we were able to collect. And practice. Look at the resources and practices that are most useful to you. And finally, as we did last time, what are you going to do next? Because in taking part in the session, both October and this one, we invited you to be able to share the information from each day with members of your team and with others. So that's the goal. Those are the goals for today. And hope that that is of interest to you.
Okay, we have a couple of polls, and Janice Johnstone, who is helping us on things today, will launch those. I think, Janice, are you going to do that? Or shall I? There they are. So please tell us a little bit about yourself and what you have done and what you would think you would like to do. So about 45 out of 60 people have voted so far. We'll just leave that open a little bit longer to give everybody a chance to.
Looks like a couple of people are saying that they haven't been able to submit, or they've responded and then the submit doesn't work for you. I'm sorry about that. If you want to type into chat some of your responses, that would be great.
Yeah, sorry about that.
Grace just said you need to check a box in the final question.
Yeah.
Ah. Thanks, Jan. Thanks, Grace.
Yeah, scroll down, see all the questions.
Yeah, there are 4 questions there. You might not be seeing them all on your screen at the same time.
It's just that the third question asks which ones you've done, and then the fourth asks what you're going to try. And if you've already said you've done it, it kind of is confusing.
Yeah, but you can't leave it blank. Yeah.
Oh, we should have added a blank.
I put
Maybe
other.
you could say other.
Thanks, Chris. Yes, face to face. Very good. Succinct. Yeah, Alice Mack, I'm sorry to hear that about your institution.
Me too.
Okay, Cherie, just let me know when you want to close things off here.
Yeah, I think we should close it because we've got almost everyone, and there are a few people who said they couldn't submit. So
okay,
let's close. And can we share the results with everybody?
they should be there.
Okay, good. So most people joined this group in October, so those people will know what we did in October. We'll do a very brief review for those people who weren't with us last time. And a couple of people watched the recording. And certainly face-to-face ISWs are very popular and have been popular for a really long time. And I can see there's some other things beginning to grow, blended and virtual ISWs, and lots of people planning now to do virtual events. I think considering the current situation, that's the reason, for the main reason, I think, for the big interest in virtual ISWs. But there are other benefits too, I think, that will probably come out today. So thanks for sharing. I can see lots of activity amongst what people have done already. I'm just going to close that so we can go on. Thank you. Here's a little reminder from Alice. If you were not with us in October, or if you need a little reminder of what we talked about, Alice, please go ahead.
Great. And I don't know about other people's screens. I have the polls blocking the slide.
I think you can close that yourself.
There we go. Thank you very much.
Closed.
Okay. So first I should say that this isn't in the reminder, but last time in October, we gave a brief history of the project. And this is one of 3 or 4 projects that came about because the fall, or I'm sorry, the spring group of institute of getting together to work on projects was canceled for reasons of COVID-19. And so the executive of the ISW got together and invited people to take part in these various kinds of virtual projects. And this one is the first that has had the seminars. I know the others will have seminars coming up in the future, and you'll hear about those later through email. We had a fine group of 25 people on our team of virtual resources from all over the world. And Cherie and I were 2 of the 4 co-chairs. The others were Jennifer Faubert and Catherine Brillinger. And I know from people joining today's session and also the last one that several members of the team for this project are online today. And I wondered if just for a second you could turn your camera and mic on and just say hi. I'll just take 1 minute for that. And I know I saw Lana, Mikkel. I may have missed others joining in.
Hello, this is Juliet. I'd like to say hi, and I'm with a group of people who you might be able to hear if they unmute and say hi. Mighty ISW facilitators from the BC Public Service.
Excellent. Thanks, Juliet. Hi, everyone. And who else would like to say hi from our team?
Hi, everyone. I'm Lana. I had the privilege and honor to join and do a recording for the YouTube channel. So hi, everybody.
Hi, Lana.
Hi, Lana.
Anyone else who wants to say a quick hi?
Good morning. Mikkel here at the Justice Institute in New West.
Hey, Mikkel. Nice bridge in the background there.
Hi.
Okay. Anyone else? You can just interrupt me and say a quick hi. So last time we did participatory involvement, just as we are today, and we went over the minimum requirements for the ISW, which was something the executive shared, and it was our starting point for everyone on the team. We ended up with a YouTube channel and a Padlet that you're going to see in just a minute. And the Padlet was sort of is a one-stop shop for material that the team put together. So that's a reminder of what we did in October. And as I said, we're going to be building today, and we'll continue on that.
Okay. We thought it would be of interest to folks to hear about an experience of facilitating a virtual ISW. So I have done a few, and Alice is going to ask me a few questions, and afterwards there will be an opportunity for everybody to get together in a group and talk about the interview and come up with some questions of your own. So please think about what you'd like to ask while this is going on.
Okay. Cherie, I have 9 questions for you, and
okay.
I'm going to ask them one by one. When did you first offer a virtual ISW, and how many have you done to date?
The first one, I guess, was in April or May, and I've done 3. The people that I work with have done additional ones because we kind of take turns depending upon who's busiest at the time. We schedule them. So our office has probably given 8 or so of them.
Thanks.
And I've done 3.
Great. How many facilitators per ISW that's virtual?
Well, I know it's common in face-to-face to have maybe 4 or 5 facilitators, each with a group of people. What we have been doing where I am at BCIT is just one facilitator with a group, because the way that we've done it, our technology doesn't cope well with groups within groups. So you can do breakout rooms, but you can't easily have 4 or 5 breakout rooms that then break out further. So we've done them as individual rather than group sessions. So one facilitator with a group of participants.
Thanks. This might answer the next question, what you just said. What was synchronous and what was not?
All the lessons were in real time, and the some readings and discussion, online discussion and that kind of thing was done asynchronously. I did most of the first day basic topics synchronously, but not everyone on my team has done that in real time. Some folks have had a meeting of the group and then given people some assignments to do before the first lesson. I didn't do that. I did real time stuff together with, of course, some additional reading and that kind of thing. But the main first day basic topics I did in real time, mostly in real time.
And where were all the learning resources located?
We used our learning management system for a number of reasons. First, because it's convenient and you do need to provide online resources for people. And secondly, because we offered ISWs to people teaching at our facility, and we know that they will use that same system with their own students. So for them, that's the best way to learn about that system, is to use it. So we used our own LMS, our institutional
Thanks.
LMS.
Thanks. That's a good idea. And how did the lessons run?
We had, of course, everybody in, it wasn't Zoom, but a similar kind of broadcasting sharing system. And during the lesson, I turned my video off so that I would not be artificially included in the lesson. And I took notes, and everybody else participated in the lesson of the person who was teaching.
Thank you. And was there anything special you had to do or not do, that comparing it to the face-to-face ISW?
Not a lot. I mean, the topics are basically the same, but not everyone was comfortable with the technology that they would have to use when they were the teachers. So we did have to do some little experience events and tutoring and stuff for people who were uncomfortable with the technology. But that was a pretty mixed bag. I would say of the people that were participants in my sessions, more than half of them had already used all the tools before because they're currently teaching. And there were a few who had never used them. It's the first time they'd ever signed into the learning management system, and they needed some help. But most people found it pretty easy, and they didn't try anything fancy until they felt more comfortable with the tool.
Right. Put myself in that category too. Thank you. And by the way, I see a couple people asking follow-up questions on chat, and
I can't see the chat, so you can tell me.
You're very
we can save them.
Yeah, let's save them, because you're way ahead of us, Chris, and let's see who else was, and Juliet. We're going to be going into a chat room in just a minute, and that's one of the things we're going to ask is, what other questions have you got? So if you can hold on, we're going to come back to that. briefly tell us about the timing of the virtual ISW, Cherie?
Because this kind of platform like Zoom or something like this is quite tiring, we decided when we were planning, I didn't plan this myself. I worked with the people together in my department to plan. We decided that maybe 2 hours might be maximum time for folks in one session. So what I did was 2 hours in the morning, 2 hours in the afternoon for 4 days. And the rest of the stuff happened on the time of the participants. They did some work outside of those sessions. So the first day, day one, we did day one topics. So 9 to 11 in the morning, then we had a break, and then 1 to 3 in the afternoon. And the other days we did lessons in those 2 hour blocks. And sometimes there was time for a little enrichment session or a topic, but not always. It depended on how many people in the group. And that seemed to work out pretty well. One day we had to go, I don't know, 15 minutes over one of those times or something like that. But most times we were able to keep it exactly to 2 hours. And in terms of timing of the days, I've done a couple of different things. The first one I did was for people who were teaching full time. And so I did Sunday, 4 hours on a Sunday, then Tuesday night, 2 hours, Thursday night, 2 hours, the following Sunday, 4 hours, then Tuesday night, 2 hours, and Thursday night, 2 hours, because that's all that their schedule would allow. I've also did a session where it was 4 days in a row during an exam period. And we often used to do that face to face. So I tried that, but the people in that group said they felt they didn't have enough time to sort of follow up and do their independent stuff on a schedule like that. So the following time, the third time I did it, I did Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Monday. People were not working. It was during the day. It was summertime. So 4 hours Monday, 4 hours Wednesday, Friday, and then Monday again. I think if I was going to do that model again, I'd probably do 4 hours on a Friday. So that's the day one topics on a Friday. Then they have time to plan and think over the weekend before they deliver their first lessons. I'd probably shift the starting date to a Friday instead of starting on a Monday.
Right.
But the folks I work with have done lots of different options because we do them to suit the availability of the faculty, and people have all kinds of different schedules.
Thanks.
So it changes.
Thanks, Cherie. And my last question, and you sort of alluded to it in your response to the one before. What's one thing you know now that you wish you knew when you started doing this?
Well, my first session, I wasn't careful enough, I think, making sure that people had access before the first meeting. So I sent them the information and the sign-in information, but I didn't press them to check that they had access. And so on that very first day, I had one person who couldn't get in because they'd never signed into the LMS system before and they hadn't actually checked their link. They were feeling overconfident that they would have no problem. So after that, I always insisted people check their access to ensure that they could get in a few days in advance, because if they have technical issues, where I work, not me who is the master of the universe. It has to go to the IT.
Right.
And
So there's a time element.
9 to 4 and don't work on the weekends for emergency kind of, I can't get into my course stuff. So I wanted them to ensure that they could get in advance.
Right.
And so I was careful about that.
Thank you. Thank you. And I see lots of great comments coming in on the chat. We will get back to you after we're about to go into our first breakout room. And some of these things will be undoubtedly talked about in the breakout room. Thanks, Cherie.
Okay.
Okay, folks, so we have, in this hour-and-a-half long session, we have a total of 3 breakout rooms. This is the first one. It's going to be 8 minutes long. You'll get a notice when there's, I think, 2 minutes left. So first of all, just very briefly introduce yourself. And then we're curious for you to chat with people in your room about what was useful to you in the interview, and decide amongst you 3 questions that your group will pose once we're back in the whole group, which you will do by chat. So it may well be related to some of the things that have come on chat now. So you're going to be put into a breakout room. There'll be a slight delay, and yeah, think about the interview and what would you like to ask when we come back.
Okay, here we go, folks.
So we're just rejoining the big group, everyone, and at least I learned that 8 minutes goes by really quickly. We did have a technical thing or two just from folks that were taking part. What we want to ask everyone to do, and I think we'll do it by chat because of timing, is whether or not you had enough time to talk in your group of the kinds of questions that you would agree you want Cherie to now respond to. You could feel free to type them into chat right now, and that is what the next slide is, which I don't see at the moment, but I know it'll appear at some point.
Do you want to go on to the next one now?
Sure. I just want to go back to my chat here. So we had a lot of questions that came in even while we were doing the interview. But first I want to ask one that came from my group just before we returned. And the question is, do you find that the kinds of mini lessons that people are leading is different because it's online?
Well, gee, I'd have to say both yes and no. I was amazed at the creativity of the lessons, and they included things like juggling and hula dancing and Tai Chi, memory techniques. I would say they were not very different from the types that I see in face-to-face. However, the delivery had to be a little different just because people couldn't move around as much.
Right. Thank you. And I see some of the questions that are coming in will actually be responded in an upcoming section of the session around resources, samples of models, that kind of thing. Here's one. How did you manage technology glitches in the lessons? Because as we know, something out of the ordinary can cut right into your time.
Well, I think just as you would in any class, if the technology fails, you try for a certain amount of time and then you do something else instead. You find a different way to do it, or you don't finish your lesson, which is what will happen in the real world. So if I could help somebody with a little glitch, I would do that. But otherwise, people just did what they would do in a regular class with their regular students. If it works, you go ahead. And if it doesn't, you give that bit up and do it differently, or struggle on.
Yeah.
Because you often can't fix a technology thing really quickly in a 10-minute lesson.
Absolutely. And I see some other folks who've clearly been doing some virtual ISW saying some of the things that you've responded to. Cherie, lessons pretty much the same with the same types of topics. I can see that we won't have time to respond to all of the questions. So what we will do after the session is over, and maybe give us a day or two, is we'll put together a document that has all the questions and Cherie's answers.
Sure.
Yeah.
Can I respond to one thing? Because I saw
please.
a theme in the questions that were in the chat before everybody left. And that was, what was the driver for doing so much synchronous stuff? And how did you make it build community and make sure people felt safe and so on? Well, actually, those two, for me, in my mind, go together. Like, I was worried that if we didn't have some synchronous, some real time together before the first lesson, that people wouldn't build community and feel safe. And so that's why I did some of those day one topics together. And one of my colleagues has been doing no meetings until the first lesson. And she decided she didn't get the community building that she wanted, and people weren't as comfortable. And so what she did was she had a 1-hour meeting and then some exercises for people to do before the first lesson. So at least people met each other, and then that enabled them online to build community more quickly than they would have if they'd never met. So I think it's not necessary to do all the stuff synchronously prior to the first read about that. And it was new to us to do that. So I didn't want to take a chance with that. It's not necessary to do all that stuff.
Thanks, Cherie.
Synchronously.
Thank you. And like I said, there's a lot more questions, and people are sharing some of their experience as well in chat. We'll have that all together, and you'll get some responses if you haven't already in an email that you'll get later on.
Sure.
Okay. So, and a couple of you said or asked, what resources are there? And so what we're going to do in next is to look at some sample formats and then go into another breakout room where you can share your experience if you've done one, or your questions, your comments about that. And so I think, Cherie, I need to share the screen next.
Yes, you do.
Wish me luck, everyone. Okay. So you should be seeing now the Padlet that was one of we're really calling this the one-stop shop. And can I just have a thumbs up, Jan, Cherie? Is that what you're seeing?
Yes.
Okay, good. Yay. So this second column, minimum requirements and sample formats, the way it, and I'm gonna put the URL for this this website in chat in just a second. But as you scroll down, there's the minimum requirements at the very top that form the start of our teamwork and what not to do in an ISW. But then there's several examples that have been shared by members of the team. There's Cherie's, one of Cherie's right there. And someone from UBC, Jens, thank you. And another person from UBC, Joe, thank you, Joseph. And so you can take a look at that, and I'm just going to...
I'll put the URL in, Alice.
Thank you so much. So that's what the Padlet looks like. It's the second column over. And what I also encourage you to do, if you have a problem with the getting to the URL even, I'm going to add a file, a PDF that is the see, clearly I can't talk and type at the same time. It's a PDF of the agendas, the sample agendas, and I've just put that in there. So you have a couple of ways, and Cherie, now we can go back to the slides. Thank you. You have a couple of ways to look at the sample agendas, which is the topic of the next breakout room. And you can go right to the Padlet and look at the second column, or you can go to I think the next slide. Thank you. So look at some sample agendas. You've heard from Cherie, her experience with one of them. Share your ideas if you've been involved, as I know some of you have, or if you have comments or ideas, talk in your group. We're going to go into another 8-minute group. It's the same people, so you don't need to introduce yourself again. We'll save a bit of time there. I was just practicing speaking on mute. Hi, everyone. Welcome back. And another great breakout room in my experience. A few technical glitches. Some people couldn't quite get to the Padlet. Someone suggested you could just Google ISW Padlet and get to it that way. So I'm sorry that there were a few issues. What I'm going to invite you to do now is and I think some of the I think some things were talked about in the breakout room that you could summarize in chat, and I'll just give you a chance to talk about that. So after having talked about, and for some of you looked at sample agendas, what ideas or thoughts have you got about the virtual ISW based on looking at those? And thanks again to the team members on our virtual ISW resource team who shared those agendas. We invited people to share the actual agenda and then a blank one so that you could add your own information for your own use. I see a question coming in. Do online ISWs adhere to the instructional time requirements to receive credit? Well, yes, they should. And this question does come up from time to time, and it's part of what is in the document in the Padlet. If you want to look later at the minimum requirements, is if an ISW that you are facilitating meets the minimum requirements, whether it's face-to-face or online or blended, it is a certified ISW. Jan, if I have misconstrued that, you can correct us as a member of the executive. And Mikkel, it'd be really interesting to see a video demonstration of how video could be used as part of giving feedback. I think there's a sample of that in the material on the Padlet. At least one person on the team shared. It was one of the support. They did it through PowerPoint, and they were being very meta. They were talking about, oh, okay, now I need to change screen, or I don't know if that quite answers your question, Mikkel.
I have to go and take a look, but I'm happy to take a look. We were just talking about how that would be really interesting to see if and how it would be possible to use kind of snippets of a video recording of somebody's lesson in providing feedback kind of right after or very shortly after.
Yeah, I see. Yeah, just like we do in the face-to-face, right? You know, sometimes you want to show, and I remember Mikkel, you know, working with you at UBC in the oldie days, and Jan, where it was the VHS tape, and you had to rewind during the little break. It's a lot easier with using electronic recording. Yeah, thanks. I'm seeing lots of people sharing what's happening at your institution or what you're doing, and I appreciate all of that. And as I said, we're if your comment or your question hasn't been addressed. We will be working with that near the after the session is over. Yeah. Sri, do you have anything to add before we move on?
Well, one thing I noticed is people are still wondering about how many facilitators with participants. And because I was quite nervous initially, I asked for 4 participants only. But after doing an ISW with 4, then I realized I could do with 5 or 6, it would still be fine. And in fact, 4 is a bit small because you can't do breakout groups with 4 unless you participate yourself, which makes it harder to maintain your facilitator view.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. So maybe 5's the ideal. I mean, I remember
5
even
is good. I think 6 is still okay.
Yeah.
But, you might have to expand the amount of time. That's the issue with every lesson. You need 40-45 minutes. The prep, the lesson, and the feedback, and all of that.
I know in leading the face-to-face ISWs, you know, we maxed at 6 per small group with 1 facilitator. And I remember always being secretly happy if there were only 5, because you had that buffer of time, and you know, 6 obviously works, but yeah.
Yeah.
And lots of different ways to structure. Okay.
And I see there are some other people who got some things to share. So if you have done a virtual ISW and you'd like to share those materials, I would say please send those to the executive, because they could perhaps be shared with others.
Yeah. Yeah, that's interesting, Alice Mack, my friend, other Alice. Our team would like to mount the first part of the handbook in WordPress. That's neat. Invite participants to use hypothesis.is. Interesting, to mark up the document. I don't know that technology, so thanks for sharing that.
It works really well, but it only works in the Firefox Mozilla extensions so far, but it does work.
Right. And I see a question that maybe Jan can, oh, there you go. The current version of the handbook is being updated as we speak. Thank you, Jan, responding to someone's query about that. Okay.
We did share the ISW manual in the course materials, and it was used as a basis for the readings and the assignments.
Yeah. Great. Wow. This is very rich. Thank you, everyone, for taking part in those 2 breakout rooms. We had a special guest in the second one that wasn't in the first, and that's always good. It's always fun to have surprises. And thanks, Chris, for your comments, and I see you're typing into chat as well. And Chris also commented in our group that the importance of having planning meetings ahead of the blended or online ISWs. And yeah, I can't emphasize that enough. The very important in any ISW or big workshop. Shri and I had quite a few meetings for this one, didn't we, Shri?
Yeah.
Okay, I think we can move on.
Moving on, okay. We're going to, again, put you into breakout rooms, this time with new folks, and ask you now to do a little scavenger hunt and review some of the materials on the Padlet, because there's tons of great stuff there that you'll probably find quite useful. These were all contributed by the people in the project. And I think if you can, that would be a very good use of your time, is just to become more familiar with what's already available for you so you don't have to start creating everything from scratch. So I've sent you a link to the scavenger hunt. I'm also going to provide a document of the questions, and you'll go back to the Padlet and take a closer look at what's available there. There's so much material there. I'm having trouble locating my file, but I'll just take a second, and while that's happening, maybe Janice can.
Well, thanks, folks. Boy, time flies when you're having fun. Thanks for that. And I know that the group I was in had lots of rich conversation, even though we, some of us did have technical challenges seeing the scavenger hunt and actually getting back to the Padlet. So we made the best use of it. So thanks everyone for that. And we are getting to the end of our time together. And I want to say that at 10:30, when it's over, I know you're seeing some new colleagues and some colleagues from your past. We are at 10:30. We will be turning off the recording, but leaving things on. So if you wanted to chit chat to folks, you can do so. And Jan has graciously agreed to stay on as long as there are people who want to chat. So I'm seeing some things, some additional comments and queries coming out on chat, and I don't know that we have enough time to do a good job of responding to them. So like all the other chat questions and sharings, we will put it all into something and send it out to you. So one of the ways of capping the session is here on the slide. What resources might you use from the collection, and what further resources might you need? And this is a blank slide. I think actually, Cherie, I'm taking over, so I'm going to turn it back to you.
Okay, well, people have already started answering these questions in the chat, but if you'd like to put your ideas on the slide, you're welcome to do that too, using the annotation tool or the chat. So of all those great resources gathered by that big group of ISW people, what do you think would be useful for you to use? I see some good ideas in the chat, people saying the icebreakers and the demo mini lessons, all of the resources. Well, yes, all of them are useful. It's true.
The sample schedules, the icebreakers. Maggie asks, did anyone who choose ISW topics find the social connection and discussion? Tips for teaching. Yeah, lots of great things here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there isn't a video on how feedback is given. Alice mentioned there's a video about learning how to give feedback, and that's a standard topic that's covered for the first lesson. So in any ISW, there's always time spent on how to give effective feedback before the lessons begin, because that's really a part of the ISW, and you want comfortable doing that and do a good job. It's not really, Maggie's asked if it's different, synchronous and asynchronous. Not really. I mean, would just be how you would do it. So you could do it synchronously real time in a tool like this, or you could do it in a discussion board so that people give their feedback in written format or as an attached audio file or something.
Mm-hmm. And Juliet asks if most people are using Zoom to deliver ISWs. I think that you could, we have some responses rolling in, and I know that some people are using their institution's learning management system. There's Blackboard. So lots of good responses coming in.
Yeah, I think you can use whatever is most common at your institution or most accessible to your participants.
Big Blue Button, Moodle, Microsoft Teams.
Right.
Yeah.
So we have it where I'm working, we have a tool inside our LMS, just like Blackboard has something inside its LMS. We use Desire to Learn, and it has Bongo inside it. So you could use Zoom for the real-time stuff if you wanted to, but it's sometimes hard for people to go to different places. So if you've got your online resources in one place, you might want to use the tool that's already available in that LMS rather than choosing another tool. It's really up to the facilitator, I think.
Yeah. And thanks, Jill, from the executive, for saying that the executive's exploring an apprenticeship model, shadowing a visual ISW, virtual ISW, I think you may have meant to say. So thanks for that. So, you can keep adding to chat. We have a couple more slides to cap the session. Thank you for all the things you added to the blank screen here.
Yeah, and thanks for all that information that you've shared on the screen. I can see that people found those resources useful, and that makes me very happy because the community all contributed to that collection.
And there will be more, as the executive is sharing with us, there will be more virtual groups and resources to share with you in the coming months, weeks. Okay. One of our last slides, a bit like last one, different materials today, or in a different focus. So I want you to type into chat if you're comfortable. I will share highlights of today's session with my team by, and just complete the sentence, and I'll give you a minute for that, and make a comment or two as they come in, and just a reflection for yourself as well. I know that everyone is encouraged to share the material from today with your group. Team meetings, short meetings, try the scavenger hunt. Great. Hold a workshop. Share the link to the Padlet. Yeah, that's a good idea. Before you meet, there's so much on the Padlet. You could focus on specific things. Great. Trainer development guide. Interesting. David, thanks. Yeah, so more work bees are in the works.
Yeah, lots of good ideas there. So please share the wealth. Share it out. Your own folks, because we're all doing the same stuff. So it's nice to be able to share and collaborate with each other.
It's great. So I think we have one more slide.
That's it.
The thank you. And I think somewhere there's also a slide, Cherie, is there, of all the contact information of the group? We could just pop that up for a moment so you can, and all of these things will be being shared as the event from October. So I want to thank you. You've just taken an hour and a half out of your busy days to share ideas with each other and we all appreciate it. So thanks very much from Cherie and Jan and myself and all the others behind the scenes, Paula, members of the executive, Diane, who handled registration, and just very much appreciate all of the collaboration. So thanks. Nice to see and hear all of you. You can, as we said before, stay on for up to 30 minutes. Jan will be turning off the recording in just a second. And if you wanted to just chat informally, people you haven't seen, new folks, new colleagues you've just met, you can stay on, and Jan will graciously stay on for up to half an hour as long as everyone's around. Thank you. Thank you, and you, and
Thanks,
you, and
everybody. Have fun.
Thanks very much to Alice and Cherie for leading this session for us.
Oh,
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.